All right, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to get settled in for today's seminar. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am actually very honored to be able to introduce Hosea and Annie. I've known Hosea for quite a few years now. I had to wear this particular t-shirt to represent. In prior years, he's run a hackathon here on campus at MIT called the Assistive Technology Hackathon, AT-Hack for short. And my wife, who's a registered nurse, and I came in to help judge. It was fascinating and interesting and kind of crazy. But that's the energy that Hosea brings to the Create Challenge, both when he was running the AT-Hack as a BWSI course and now as a national challenge where we're reaching about 200 students, 150 students? 150 students or so, students a year. It's amazing how many people are learning about design, they're learning about engineering, and learning, probably just as importantly, how to work with a co-designer. I'm going to let Hosea talk more about that. I'm also very happy that Annie Katz is going to be participating in the presentation today too. She is an alum of BWSI and now working with the e-textiles class on a summer research project. So, Hosea, over to you. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you, Joel, very much. Hi, everyone. Hello. Oh, great, excellent. You are still awake. Got bolstered by lunch. All right, so like Joel said, my name is Hosea. I'm going to be presenting today's seminar along with Annie over here. I'm going to be starting out. Just a quick note, there's going to be 2 slides here that are based on work funded by the US Air Force. Everything's publicly released. There are no secrets here. Yeah. All right, so roadmap for this talk. I'm going to do a quick introduction of my background just to give you a sense of sort of where I'm coming from, what my expertise is, what my biases are, and so on and so forth, kind of set the stage for the other things. We're going to talk about the Create Challenge, which is the main topic for today. We're going to talk about specifically some of the things that Annie's done in the Create Challenge. We wanted to bring back an alum, multi-time alum, and talk to you about some examples of things that were done in that context. And then, of course, this is a massive recruitment pitch. I will shamelessly plug this. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and get started. So by way of background, so I graduated from MIT with an aerospace engineering degree. Back during undergrad, I did a lot of space engineering stuff. So that was a pretty good time. That's probably like, I don't know. The one time I was in a zero-G flight was probably, I don't know, that's probably the coolest I'll ever be. It's all been downhill since then. Afterwards, I did some work in planetary science, also here because I couldn't leave yet. So I did a degree in planetary science over at the Green Building, which you may have seen, the 18-story building. I had an office in there. I studied Pluto from the ground, and then my office mate sent a space probe to Pluto and made my thesis obsolete. It's okay, I got it in before her space probe reached it, so that was okay. After that, I did some work in wearable robotics and specifically focusing on machine learning-based control of human exoskeletons. So this was kind of an interesting situation. This was a time where we were, 3D printing was picking up a lot, and we were picking up a lot of stuff on like very relatively quick machine learning things. And we did some work in sort of a hand-based human exoskeleton. That's also actually about the time that I met Chrissy Glover, who is now leading the e-textiles course. She was an intern in our lab at that time, and yeah, we met a long time ago. Yeah. So after that time, so I had at this point already done 3 degrees at MIT, and I decided that I couldn't leave yet. So I got a job at MIT Lincoln Laboratory. One of my first projects at Lincoln was this human exoskeleton. I worked on hand exoskeletons for my PhD, and now I worked on leg exoskeletons. This is up there is Sarah. She's one of our grad student who I worked with, who's now at Aurora Flight Sciences. She actually also was one of the first TAs that we had for the assistive tech course that we ran here for BWSI. Doesn't exist anymore. We'll talk about why. But we did some really cool work in exoskeleton space as well. Nowadays, I don't do as much in wearable robotics. I do these things now. I professionally watch other people play Minecraft. So I do a lot of stuff in human-machine teaming. We use Minecraft as one of our platforms. If you are over the age of 18, one, you're sketchy according to BeaverWorks. Can't hang out with the kids. But two, more importantly, you can participate if you know Minecraft in our experiment that's running on campus in the next 2 weeks. You should let me know. Come up and ask me. We're recruiting for human participants this week and next week. And on the other side of things, I also work on human-machine teaming support for the Air Force's new collaborative combat aircraft. So there are these 2 new aircraft that are coming out that are being tested now-ish, and we are doing some ground support for things like that as they try to figure out how they are going to use it. So all that is to say, if you stay in school, kids, work real hard, one day you too may be paid by the US government to go watch people play Minecraft. The other side of what I do is I've done BeaverWorks for a long time. So like Joel said, back when I was in grad school, I helped out in this thing called AT Hack, which was like a sort of weekend hackathon with a 2-week build-up before that. The idea behind that was it was actually a graduate level course that we had here at MIT. We turned it into a hackathon where we had teams of students working with people with disabilities from the Boston area, and then building some product that would help them in some activity of daily living. Really cool hackathon. It was mostly people from MIT, some folks from like Wellesley and Olin College, and then some, towards the end, we actually had some people flying in from places like Australia and Hong Kong. It was kind of fun. But as soon as I started at Lincoln, Bob Shin, I'm sure, you all met Bob? We've all met Bob? Okay, cool. Some of these things won't make sense if you haven't met Bob. So as soon as I started at Lincoln, Bob was like, hey, Hosea, we supported AT Hack when you were running it. Would you like to turn this into a course? So I didn't know what I was signing up for, but I said yes. So then we started running this as a course. We ran it for, I think, exactly once, and then COVID hit. And then we ran it twice online, distributed, and something really interesting happened. The interesting thing is, okay, so what you see there above is you actually see examples of both, I think it's AT Hack on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side are 2 pictures from the one in-person year. But the interesting thing is when you do this kind of thing in person, you have people from all over the country coming in, and then working with people in the Boston area, mostly whom they don't know. When we turned the class into remote, what we told people was like, all right, we cannot connect you to people with disabilities in your area. You will have to go find them. So this was an interesting homework problem, but this meant that instead of working with a stranger, now you're working with your grandmother. Now you're working with your next door neighbor. Now you're working with your science teacher, right? Now you're working with the special ed school that's attached to your school. So there's an interesting shift in dynamic that happened there. And so after running this 3 times, so there's of course the final event, right? That's all very exciting. I hope you all are very excited for the final event. I think like the last time I ran this, less than 3 hours after the conclusion of the final event, it probably was an email from Bob. I get an email from Bob, and he says, hey, do you think you can run this again as a national challenge? I was like, I had pushed back a little bit, but what had happened sort of in the interim was the first class of students who took the online version of this course already did it. So the high schoolers, after taking this course, they were like, we want to continue doing this. We're just going to do this ourselves, despite the fact that we're distributed across the country. I'm like, all right, fine. the high schoolers can do it, we can probably do it. Maybe we don't have as much energy, but we can probably do it. So we have turned the design for assistive technology into one of the things that is beyond the Summer Institute, right? You see all these different examples of things that exist beyond BWSI, right? Some of these are international programs, some of these are the spring and fall outreach programs, and then two of these are these national challenges. One of these is the CubeSat challenge, and the much cooler one, no offense CubeSat, is the Create challenge, the Create Assistive Technology challenge. So let's talk about what that entailed. But let's pull back for a moment. I am, of course, an employee of MIT Lincoln Laboratory, right? So I have to sort of defend what I am doing at a small percentage of my time in the context of what I'm doing in sort of, you know, the laboratory. And what I point people to is, hey, you know, Lincoln Laboratory says that we do a lot of operational prototypes of unique systems, and we do things where we leverage technical excellence by having a diverse workforce and having educational outreach programs, and therefore, I'm like, all right, look. I am meeting the core mission of MIT Lincoln Laboratory. That's why I should be allowed to take some time off. It's not really time off, it's time working on this stuff. It's time doing other things to work on this stuff to have high schoolers build stuff for people with disabilities. Okay, so let's actually talk about what the Create Challenge is. So the Create Challenge is a distributed community-based project course where high school students like yourselves, like your friends, work with members of their communities to solve disability-related challenges through iterative prototyping. Okay. It's an engineering design problem. It has very unique user challenges, and you truly are building operational prototypes. One thing that we heavily emphasize to people throughout all of the assistive technology programs that I've been involved in at MIT is we say to them, this is not a pitch competition. You're not here to present an idea and then get $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever. You are here to solve somebody's problem in real life with them. Okay? So we heavily emphasize that. So these are real operational prototypes. A distinction that I like to maybe make for you between a lot of the courses here and the Create Challenge is, well, okay, think about your courses. Many of them, I think, have sort of set goals for you. There's sort of a lot of structured content usually for the first 3 weeks, maybe all the way through. And then there's a bit of free-form design at the end. You get to optimize your race car. You get to optimize your satellite design. You get to optimize your whatever, right? And maybe there's some variation between the different courses for how this is, but a lot of it is sort of structured coursework followed by free-form design. The Create Challenge is kind of the other way around. We do not know ahead of time what kinds of engineering problems people will be facing. Disabilities are extraordinarily broad, and we tell people to be broad as possible for their definition of disability. So we don't know whether you are going to be building a mobile app, or whether you're going to be modifying a wheelchair, or whether you're going to be building a lift, or whether you're going to be sewing a garment. We have no idea. We are going to walk you through what it means to be disabled. We're going to walk you through things like the engineering design process. We're going to talk to you about how to collect user needs from structured interviews. We're going to talk you through design and prototyping and drawing and testing and presentation and all that. But we don't actually know what kinds of specific technical skills you will need. We offer some of it. And then we tell people, go figure it out. And what I've learned through a lot of teaching at MIT and at other places is that oftentimes it is quite okay to hand hard problems to motivated smart folks. They'll figure it out, maybe with a bit of guidance, right? So this is kind of the gist of the challenge. If you think about it, right, most BWSI courses, your success is going to be determined by your technical work and your teamwork. For the Create Challenge, this is also true, but this also depends on your ability to work with someone else. We call the person with the disability your team's co-designer. and also the difficulty of the problem that you choose. You can choose very difficult problems, or you can choose very easy problems. Either is okay. In most BWorks courses, your instructors will know the answers. In our course, we probably don't. And that's okay, because we don't know the specific context of the person you're working with. In most BWorks courses, specific projects exist to maximize your learning. In the Create Challenge, this is highly variable. Hopefully you do learn a lot about the engineering design challenge, or the engineering design process, but there are some things that are specific, the specific technical skills, that you might learn a lot in, you might learn a little bit in, but hopefully you produce something useful. And then finally, for most BWorks courses, the prizes are the Beaver trophies that you keep. Whereas in the Create Challenge, what we say to people is that the prizes of this challenge are the things that you make and that hopefully you give away. Because Lincoln Laboratory has this big thing about tech transfer. We like to say we make prototypes and then we give them to people, and that's sort of a great measure of success. I tell my boss over at Lincoln, hey, actually my greatest volume of tech transfer has been through BeaverWorks, has been through the Assistive Technology Challenge. We have at this point given over 100 products over to people to use, hopefully in their day-to-day living. So that's pretty cool. Let's talk about kind of what the challenge timeline looks like. And so we start actually in we have a sign up in September-ish, October-ish, and then we tell people, okay, your first job is to go find a co-designer, find someone with a disability with whom you can work, and what we call with whom you have testing access. And this is usually someone who lives nearby. We've had some cases where it's like, oh no, it's, I really, really want to build something for my aunt in Malaysia or my grandmother in India. We've had those cases where we say, hey, try to find an equivalent person here who you can test with because you really need to do the in-person testing. And it's a little bit different. So we say to people, hey, go find a co-designer. And then we tell people, hey, brainstorm some project possibilities. And concurrently with all this, there's an online engineering design course. This course teaches you sort of what does it, again, the things I mentioned before, what does disability mean, what does the product design process look like, what does prototyping look like, what does interviewing look like, what does documentation look like, so on and so forth. We had a fun documentation activity this morning with the eTextiles folks, and I hope they had some takeaways about what good and bad documentation looks like. Yeah, and then towards the winter is when we start to have the design, build, test, repeat process. We basically have 2 periods of, 2-ish cycles of design, build, test, repeat, where they are building low-fidelity prototypes first and then high-fidelity prototypes later. We do design reviews. I'll tell you a little bit more about the design reviews in a bit, but basically you have to do design reviews to make sure that your design is appropriate for your problem and for your user, with both your peers and with people with a little bit more experience. So in all this, we have a pretty large sort of network of support. We have, for example, sort of challenge coordinators. So the last 2 years, that's been me and Chrissy Glover, right? So we've been sort of running things behind the scenes. We've been keeping track of the Discord. We've been doing all the lots and lots of spreadsheets and bugging Lisa with a bunch of orders, things like that. And then there's also, obviously, we also require that teams have a coach, meaning just some adult who is in sort of, in their physical presence and is able to make sure that they don't lop any limbs off and do things rather safely. And then we also have some remote technical mentors who are volunteers. Some of them are staff at Lincoln Laboratory. Some of them are, they're product designers, they're medical specialists, they're rehab specialists, and so on and so forth, doing some pretty neat stuff professionally. And they help the students work through the process. We've also had a number of alums who have been technical mentors. So we have all these, and then we have a final paper and a video. Right, coursework sections I mentioned already. A lot of them are sort of these things. And then we have this maker skill section, which is a lot more free form, because again, we do not know what skills it is that people need. So we just kind of offer a couple of them, and then we say, take whatever is relevant. And then for project, we have things like, finding co-designer, interviewing them, doing some brainstorming with them, and then doing design reviews and final presentations. We have a hybrid final event in April. We've had people show up from a lot of different places in the US. last year was the first, oh, actually, okay, so we used to only do this online, and then last year there was a school in Tennessee that was like, we really want to show up at MIT. Can you please do this? And so we were like, okay, fine. So we did an in-person version as well, and we had people zoomed in, and then we did our first in-person version this year that was actually pre-planned, that we announced beforehand, and I guess we'll be doing a hybrid version now moving forward. So it's very exciting. You get to kind of see what different people are doing, and you get to see the different kinds of projects, and you get to chat with people, you get to chat with the judges, and so on. As far as design reviews go, I mentioned that there are kind of two of them, but they kind of occur, there are two of them in pairs. For each pair, we actually have students do self-organized peer reviews. So they will have to, so the purple thing is it's not intended for you to be able to read it. It's intended for you to see that there's a lot of text, because these are the guidelines that we give people when we say to them, hey, you need to go do a peer review. So you need to go find another team, and then go present to each other, and then critique each other, give each other feedback, and that is the peer side. And then on the other side, we have people doing recordings that we then forward over to our mentor pool, which then does review and provides a bit of feedback that way. We provide detailed instructions, and then also after the first design review, we provide up to $125 for teams that requested for materials. That's just to help people gauge the complexity of the project. Sometimes people need no money. Sometimes people need quite a bit more, and if you need quite a bit more, we say to you, hey, go do a bit of your own fundraising, and people have. Some people have done bake sales. Some people have gone off and asked for sponsorships, and that's all fine. We point people to the First Robotics sponsorship page and tell them, yeah, roughly follow this. Right, so we have co-designers, students, coaches, remote mentors, and staff. So these are kind of our challenge roles. And yeah, right now we're constantly looking for remote mentors, by the way. So if you know any adults who have these kinds of skills and are interested in this, please point them my way. Also, that second bullet for students, there's going to be a recruitment thing at the end of this. So let's talk about what actually happened. So this is a little bit old, but last year, we had 30 teams finish the challenge over the course of 5 months. We had 117 students finish. We had a few more than that who started. We had about 30 co-designers and about the same number of coaches and a bunch of technical mentors. So we partner also with different organizations. We've partnered with primarily the Advanced Functional Fabrics of America Society, so FOA. So they've done some great support for this. We've had people doing the challenge sometimes it's with the school, sometimes it's just with an organization, sometimes it's with just a bunch of friends that they know, and they convince somebody's mom to be their coach, which is perfectly fine. But we've had people from all over. I think in the last year, we've also had a bit more representation from the middle of the country, but we tend to have a lot of representation from places like New York, DC, and I hear that the Create Challenge has been passed around the Bay Area Indian moms groups. This is what I've been told by a Bay Area Indian student. So, hey, if you are from these communities, great, we'd love to have you in the challenge. If you are not from these communities, great, we'd also love to have you in the challenge. So we'd love to see a lot more people from all over the US participating in this. All right, so I'm gonna hand it over to Izzy. I'm looking at this and I see Izzy. I'm gonna hand it over to Annie to talk about Izzy. And yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Annie and I'm going into my junior year, and as Joel said, I'm currently in e-textiles doing research. And my journey with Beaverworks actually started 2 years ago when I had the life-changing, or as we describe our experience here, transformational opportunity to participate in the Beaverworks Create Challenge, and I was able to help out my younger sister. Her name is Izzy Katz, and at the time she was in 7th grade, and she has a condition called dyspraxia. This condition affects 6% of children globally, and what this means is that it impairs coordination, grip strength, and she also has severe low tone in her hands. Practically speaking, this means that everyday tasks that you and I find easy, like opening up our bag of chips at lunch, were impossible for her. So I set out trying to find a program that could mentor me to create a prototype to make her life easier. I was really excited when I found the Create Challenge, so much so that I think I was even the first person to reach out to Hosea in an email about the challenge that year. And what I was asking was whether your co-designer needed to have a well-known disability or be so impaired that they're in a wheelchair or elderly, but he assured me that there was a way broader definition of who could use assistive technology. So the way the program works is that you work in a team, and so I found another person who lives in my neighborhood who really wanted to help with this project. And not only did I get a great mentor, Robert Finnegan, who also introduced me to many other engineers where he works at AFOA, and I was able to get help from other instructors and mentors as well, also including Chrissy Glover, who's my current teacher, and it was very generous and helpful that I got so much ad hoc support. So here are some photos of the prototype that we created. We built a soft exoskeleton glove with had a pulley-like system, which included using a geared motor, Kevlar cord, and rings along your joints, so that when she would squeeze down, the glove would pull down and allow her to squeeze more tightly. And so on the left, you can see one of our first iterations. And what this program taught us is that our prototype does not need to be some extravagant, ready-on-the-shelf made product. It can start off as paper or cardboard. And there's a lot of changes that you make throughout the competition. And so we would continuously check in with Izzy, and we would make adjustments based off of her feedback. And then on the right, you can see the final product we had by the end of the program. And so we ended up changing to a purple glove because A, it was easier to showcase the electronics for documentation, and B, because Izzy really liked that color. And then we also bedazzled the electronics pouch just to make it more fun and kid-friendly. So when she was younger, Izzy initially only had 2 pounds of grip strength in her hands. And after years and years of physical and occupational therapy, she was able to get that up to 13 pounds. And they said that was all they can do, but this still was not enough. For reference, the baseline of what's considered enough to be functional in most of your daily tasks is 20 pounds. So after creating this, we were able to quantify the increase in her grip force using a dynamometer, and she was able to get up that 20 pounds, which is almost a 50% increase in grip strength from what she had without using this. So I have a video here demonstrating how it helped her with the task of opening up a glue stick. So this is before. And
We're trying to open a glue stick without the hand hero,
Oh,
and as you see,
It's not showing up there.
oh,
You want to move it over? It's the other side.
how do I press play? You just press this. So that's her after turning the potentiometer, and as she's able to open this for the first time on her own, you're gonna see the big smile on her face, and then that's one of the intangibles of this challenge, which is that, and slides. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the intangibles of this challenge, which is the knowledge that you were able to help someone achieve something they weren't able to do without the assistive technology. Oh yeah, the tug of war too. I'll get into that in a second. So she wore it privately and a few times in public settings, and it had been very helpful, and she was even able to participate in her school's tug of war while wearing the glove. But she got a lot of questions from people, and people would look at it, and so she decided she didn't want to wear this to school. And so I also realized that this form of assistive technology is wonderful and it was really helpful, but since she was so young, I wanted to know if there was a way that I could permanently help her increase her grip strength. So we came back, and this time through the alumni division. We were very lucky to get, yet again, another amazing mentor, Hosea himself, and there were so many nuances along the way with creating this project, and we, like he said, we did try to figure things out on our own, but he also was super helpful. We would have weekly meetings, and he would help us figure out solutions wherever we got stuck. And he taught us, like I said before, that your device doesn't need to be exquisite right away. Just make sure it all works and they're able to integrate it together. And in the prior year's challenge, I learned how hard it is to work with motors when you're constantly moving them around and that wires can come loose. And so I wanted something very stable for this next version. So we built Gripster, which is a smart grip strength trainer. And the way that it works is when you squeeze it, your force controls the video game. It uses a load cell, a motor with a PID loop, and an ESP board that connects to a game we built using JavaScript. The harder she squeezes, the higher the character jumps, and it turns your reps into gameplay. And I have it here, as you can see. So throughout the process, I was able to be connected with and reach out on my own to many professionals, including OTs, PTs, doctors, and even a local makerspace that allowed me to use their equipment and cut the metal myself. So that's just some of the machinery. And I created a website where she was able to input her starting strength, which is just calibrated using a manual max rep test, where there's instructions on how to do that inside of the website. And then it's completely customized to the user. And in this video, you're going to see Izzy on the left squeezing it, and the game's very interactive. I don't know if I can
Strength session. So first it starts off with your right hand.
Let's go, Izzy. You got this.
The voice is a little
As
scary.
you can see, there's audio feedback.
As she squeezes down, the character moves up in kind of a Flappy Bird style. Yeah. Okay. So at the final event, I presented this device in person in front of a panel of judges, which included our famous STEM director, Bob, and other participants, and got some really good feedback. And so I really enjoyed working on this project, and I have real hope that I'm actually going to be able to make a permanent difference in my sister's life, and I plan to continue working on it. Since I made that original prototype, some of the OTs that I reached out to for help actually came back to me and asked if I had a prototype they could trial on either their patient or their own kids. And so I can really see that there's a path towards helping more children. What's so great about this program is that it's a very supportive community, and everyone truly wants to help the students in any way they can. And so I would encourage everyone here to do this challenge. And I just want to end with saying that not only are your technical engineering skills going to improve instrumentally, but also, and not only are you going to meet such brilliant people who are going to help you along the way, and not only do you get to work with a friend or friends, which is fun and interesting, but you're also going to, in the end, get to help someone. And in my case, it was one of the people that I care the most about in the world.
All right. Thank you so much, Annie. This is really, really awesome work. And then like every 6 months I see her again for some reason. She just shows up. Let me, wait, where's my, no. Oh, this isn't a video. That didn't get recorded. Okay, that's fine. So let me also step through a couple other projects just to give you kind of the sense of the breadth of different things that people have worked on. So for example, this was a team that appeared randomly at the end of the first year, a team from Hungary. We weren't tracking them, they just appeared. And they said, hey, we know this kid named Levi. He can only use one hand, and he'd love to play Forza. It's a car racing video game. Usually you need two hands to drive. So they built him this 3D printed attachment for his Xbox controller that lets him play Forza with one hand. And they put together this really, really awesome 3D model. They did this really awesome documentation. They showed us Levi getting a podium position on Forza for the first time. He's been doing this for a long time, but this is the first time that he's been able to actually do really, really well in the game. Presumably, he's still doing it. How many of you know about ChatGPT? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. So before GPT 4.0 came out, which is the thing that lets you, point your camera to let ChatGPT read off your homework instead of typing in your homework to it. We had actually two students who are working with a man named Niraj over at the Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Niraj has been blind for a decade, and Anjani and Divij built something called Guardian. It was this Raspberry Pi-based device. You could pull it out of your pocket. You could point it to somewhere. Let's say I'm a visually impaired person and I step on a bus, right? You can pull it out, point it at the bus, and then ask the device, hey, are there any open seats? That's a reasonable question to ask because yes, you have a white cane, but do you really want to, you know? Or you can also ask, but it depends on how many people are there, right? So you can do things like that. You can do things like point it at a menu and ask what things are here because OCR is actually quite terrible with menus. And they did all of this actually about a month before GPT-4o came out, which is pretty neat. So two high schoolers from California beat OpenAI to this. And Niraj said, we've worked with a lot of companies, and I've seen so many products made to help the visually impaired. Yours is the best I've ever seen. So doing pretty good work. We also had a team called building something called GP Stick. This is also another visually impaired young woman. She just started high school that particular year, and she also uses a white cane, but she also has an aid to help her navigate the school environment because she's not familiar with it. The team that built GP Stick built this thing that attaches to her white cane and has a super accurate GPS system that also knows her school's environment and is able to bring her to different classes without the help of her aid. So now she has a lot more independence. And they actually learned a lot about GPS along the way. They learned a lot about how to do all of this stuff at a precise enough level that you could do it within a building, which is actually quite difficult. And this ended up being really useful for Skylar. Last year, we had a team built this thing called Senior Buddy. So they built this for one of their grandmothers, a woman named Muna, who is Lebanese, and English is her second language. Even for those of us for whom English is our first language, reading a lot of medical reports for her husband, who had a stroke recently, it can be rather difficult. But her first language is Arabic. So she has to do a lot of communication with these different medical providers and figure out all the appointments and all of these things, read all the reports, all in a language that she's relatively new to. So this team put together this app that allows her to take a picture of the medical reports and then have it translated and simplified. That explains to her what the report is saying, what the implications are for her or her husband, and it also helps her in the cases where it's appropriate to make appointments and then add those events to her, I think it was just connected to her Google Calendar, right? So you can automate all of that, and that was also done by one of these teams. So very, very wide array of projects that we have in the Create Challenge. And like I mentioned, we have so this really is open, this is really open for anyone. Right? You may think that you don't know anyone with a disability. Let me put that to you as a homework problem, and I'm sure you'll find someone because y'all are really good at doing homework, right? So different kinds of projects exist, very, very wide spectrum. Some of them are pretty intense software engineering efforts. Some of them involve learning a lot about GPS. Some of them involve a little bit of 3D printing and a little bit of woodworking to create some of the most effective products that we've ever seen to help a woman deal with stroke. So all kinds of different things. And we want to kind of demonstrate for people that you don't necessarily need the most technically complicated thing in the world to really, really have an impact on someone's life. Okay, so that's the model, right? Up there you see some of the pictures from our final event, both online and at MIT, that Annie had alluded to. And what we do in this final event is, so we have, I call it a challenge. I don't like to call it a competition because, everyone's challenges are quite different, right? If you're going to be helping a person with cerebral palsy, this is maybe quite different from helping a person with autism, which may be quite different from, helping a person who is deaf, right? So what we do, one, we're going to pose it as a challenge because we realize that we're going to pose it as a little bit of competitive flavor because we realize that a little bit of competition is incredibly motivating for high schoolers, right? And the opportunity, to have your work showcased on MIT.edu website is great when you are showing off for that thing that you care about at the end of high school. As well as, we put a little bit of targets for people to actually help align your objectives with the things that we really care about. So the way that we kind of inject a little bit of competition into here is we say that, okay, we're not going to have first, second, or third place. What we are going to have instead is we're going to have category prizes aligned with the different objectives that we have for people in the challenge. So for example, co-designer collaboration. How well did your project, your team, collaborate with the person who you are trying to help? This is kind of independent of how well your product actually works, because it's a matter of understanding their needs. It might be too hard, we don't know. This is independent of how well you write your documentation and so on and so forth. We also have other prizes for things like product feasibility, so that is a question of how well does your product work. We have prizes for technical innovations, like is it a sort of cool new advance? Not every project needs to be a cool new advance on sort of the state of the art. And then we have one for documentation, because we want to ensure that people put together good documentation, because we want you to have a bigger impact than the one person, right? Because if we manage to put together a collection of these documents for how to solve these problems for different kinds of assistive technology, and we put it up on an MIT website, maybe somebody else in the future who has that problem can go look at that list, find the thing that's very similar to them, and then solve it for themselves, because that document gave them an 85% solution, right? So we have these 4 categories, and we do a little bit of judging. It's always extremely difficult because the top projects generally are very, very high quality, and it's very difficult to compare. But we sort of muddle our way through and we figure it out, and we do this both online and off. Of course, this is, as Bob would say, a transformational experience. We have this firsthand. So, we have people who say this is an opportunity of a lifetime. We have people say this is the most transformational experiences I've ever had. I don't think that person interacted with Bob. I'm not sure. So that may be their own words. We have people who say this is the first step in the multitude of strides I hope to make an impact. And people who say, hey, I would have never worked with someone in a disability community apart from an opportunity like this. This is really awesome that I get a chance to do that, right? I think a lot of the times when you are in STEM education, you kind of are exposed to kind of your more traditional pathways of, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be like an aircraft engineer. I'm gonna become an electrical engineer. I'm gonna go build microelectronics. I'm gonna go do cyber things. I'm gonna go be a really awesome programmer. Assistive technology, building things very, very, very specifically for problems that have basically no market to help people with very unique challenges is not necessarily something that comes up very often in people's standard engineering education. And we want to put that in front of people, right? We want to say, hey, you're a smart person, you have these skills, or you want to learn all these skills and you want some motivation behind it. Let's give you some motivation, let's give you some structure, and let you figure out how to solve these problems in a space and for people that you care about, right? Okay, so here's my plug. Join the Create Challenge. So just a very quick summary, the Create Assistive Tech Challenge is a great way to continue your BeaverWorks journey. It is structured somewhat differently from the rest of the things that exist in the BeaverWorks Summer Institute and in our other kinds of programs. It's a national program. You're gonna have peers from across the country. And we're focusing on the engineering design process rather than any specific technical skill. The problems that you are going to face are being driven by your neighbors, your friends, your family members, not by, not by Chrissy, not by me, not by any of your other instructors, but by your friends, by people who you know. This is an opportunity to make real impact, right? For those of you who want to say, hey, I want to use my engineering skills to change the world, I say to you, start with your neighbor. And here's a way to go do it. All right. And yeah, of course, all of this, I believe, if I'm allowed to borrow from Bob, makes you more of a beaver baller. All right. Okay. So the new challenge season starts in September 25. The Create Challenge site is up there, and there's a sign-up form for a mailing list, because of course I got to do that. And yeah, I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you for having me.
Any questions in the room? Oh, hello. Thank you for your presentation. It was really, really interesting. I was just wondering if the Create Challenge could be used as an avenue to continue work you've already done in assistive tech.
Yeah, that's a great question. We struggled with that a little bit because there's like this element of something competitive fairness something, and there's also a question of like stepping through the course and getting a sort of more full understanding of the engineering design process and so on and so forth. I think basically what we've landed on is that if you're starting a new-ish project and you're new to this as a whole, then you're kind of in one bucket, right? And then you step through the whole thing and you're kind of compared against everyone else. If you already have substantial work in a project, we'll talk to you about it, but more likely than not, we might shunt you over to another category, which is our alumni, sort of you've done a bunch of work on this kind of thing. If you've already done the course, then you don't have to do it again. If you haven't done it, but you've done some substantial work for the specific project, we would recommend probably that you step through our online course anyway, but then you wouldn't, be judged with the same folks who haven't sunk 5 years worth of work or whatever into the thing that they're developing. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so absolutely welcome to participate.
We're going to do one more in person.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. So I just had a question about, I guess the logistics of doing the Create Challenge.
Yep.
Is it like an open for all kind of thing? Like if you're interested and you are willing to put in the work and stuff, you can do it? Or is it like you apply to get in and get the funding and then?
That's a great question. So one of the things that I really, really like about this challenge model, frankly, over the Summer Institute model, is that we are an open model. Y'all are really smart, and it took a lot of effort for you to get here, and a lot of people also applied who are also really smart and did not get here. For the challenge, I do not have to make that distinction, right? I do not have to make that distinction. If you are a high schooler based in the United States, the requirements are you have to at least find one friend to work with you and find a coach locally, and then sign up. Welcome to participate. You don't have to write any essays. You don't have to submit any test scores. You don't have to know calculus. Doesn't matter. Come do the thing.
Thank you.
Virtual students, are there any questions? I don't see any hands raised. All right, we'll open up to in-person again.
Hi, I was wondering if you could elaborate more. You mentioned autism in some of the challenges, and I was wondering more if you could elaborate on any projects that have really helped with that, or if it's usually more physical disabilities.
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. Trying to remember. So, okay, is it usually more physical disabilities? I think on the balance, there's a little bit more in the way of physical disabilities than there are for cognitive disabilities, but there are a good number of cases that are not physical disabilities, so absolutely that's not a problem to participate. I think, let's see, what examples have we had in the past to help kids with autism? We've had examples of an app that actually helps a person, for example, who has a lot of trouble deciding what to wear, actually help them decide weather and occasion appropriate outfits. We've had cases of, let's see, I think cases of providing, sorry? Oh, yes. This is the stimming thing. Yeah, so we've had I think more than one case of products that actually provide different kinds of stimulation for people with autism, and and that was a physical product. Anything else? I feel like we've had like 2 or 3 more, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. It's also on the website. But yes, absolutely. We take a very wide range of meaning for disability.
Hi, I really enjoyed the presentation. I wanted to ask, right here.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I wanted to ask, for the co-designer, can they also be a member of the group working on designing
Yes.
the product?
Yes, absolutely. So oftentimes, I think for a lot of teams that's not the case, but like absolutely we've had cases where, you know, the person who's the co-designer is also a member, like, you know, they happen to be a high schooler, they happen to be the, you know, people's friend, and sure, yeah. We, you know, even if it's not like a person who is sort of the target demographic for the educational side of this, or, you know, the middle school or college student, whatever, like, they're a member of your team. I think we heavily, heavily emphasize that. And you should be working with them really, really closely. If they happen to know the technical side of things, wonderful, great, awesome, right? We've had those before, we've had, yeah. It's not common, but yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions in the room?
Hi again. I was just asking, what inspired you to create this program? Because it has a really great impact, but like, what was the starter?
Yeah, well, proximal cause was Bob reaching out being like, hey, you know, you did this for like 20, 30 people, can you do this for 300? But no. So I mean, I think the longer story for this is that, so my sister, my sister lives in New York, and you know, she has cerebral palsy. I grew up with her, you know, and she had a lot of both physical and cognitive disability. And it's kind of an interesting case where, like, I do not live in New York. I live in Massachusetts. I've learned a bunch of these skills, and I want to use them. And I do sometimes do it at home. But, you know, I think about the question of, like, I see a lot of cases where there are things in the market that almost meet the need, or nothing in the market because the market is like 3 people, right? And I kind of ask the question of, well, okay, I'm an engineer now, and like I kind of understand how to solve these things, and I think that the solution isn't necessarily that complicated. Can we get other people who have these skills to think about this as an appropriate and useful outlet for their skill set? Right, so that has been the motivation for the assistive technology hackathon that Joel mentioned that we ran way back in the day. That's been the motivation for, you know, reaching out to high schoolers for whom this doesn't really occur very much, I think, as a career choice through the Summer Institute, as well as for the Create Challenge, right? I'll tell you that what I would really, really love to hit is, so we have about 150 people signing up every year right now, and it drops down a little bit by the end of it. I would love to hit 1,000 people. I'd love to hit 1,000 students doing this every year. I would love to challenge FIRST Robotics for that would be very difficult. The stretch goal would be to challenge FIRST Robotics for volume, but yeah, they have a whole thing. But you know, I think it's a thing that people don't necessarily think about very much. It's not necessarily very hard, and you can make a lot of really good impact. I think that's why it's really useful to put the problem in front of people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're going to move to virtual. Arush, do you want to ask your question, please?
First off, thank you for your presentation. I was wondering, has there ever been any Create Challenge projects focused on dementia or Alzheimer's, kind of like the cognitive conditions, or is the challenge mostly focused on like physical and mental disabilities?
Yep. Yeah, so we had a similar question earlier. Yeah, we absolutely have had projects that are focused on cognitive disabilities, most commonly being autism. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the most common one. Alzheimer's and dementia, I don't know. Yeah, nothing off the top of my head. If you want to propose one, please feel free.
All right, that's a great way to round it out. Right now, we're going to invite our cyber operations students to do the t-shirt presenting.
Thank you so much, Hosea, for your presentation and work on the Create Challenge, and Annie for sharing your story and work with prototyping Grip Hero for your sister Izzy. My name is Adam.
My name is Ayaka.
And we are from Cyber Operations.
Well, I really liked how motivating the presentation was and how the Create Challenge gives us an opportunity to help the community.
I really appreciate that this challenge goes over the whole entire design process of like engineering and actually providing impact to people close to us. And I find your mission and purpose really inspiring.
And we would like to present this BWSI shirt to them as a thank you.
Next one is what? Thank you.
All right, thank you guys so much. What do you guys think? You guys gonna sign up for the Create Challenge? Thank you guys so much again, Annie and Hosea. That was a fantastic presentation. Also for sharing your personal stories. Really appreciate that. We have some announcements for you guys. So tomorrow, as you guys know, Melissa Choi is coming. So we request that you guys wear your Beaverworks t-shirts. We're going to take a large group photo again, so don't forget those. I believe Lisa reminded you guys to wash them. So again, please do that. We would love for you guys to smell good. Also, Tom sent out a food truck form. For virtual students, that form is open to you guys as well. So anyone who's coming in person, maybe a local student, you guys can fill out that form and we'll provide lunch. That is due Friday. Those are the announcements I have for you guys today, and I'll just dismiss courses. So virtual, you guys can head out.